a crime without having to spend time in jail.
And Enrique Alvarez Clary.
C is for chunk.
Brought to you by Empire Fence and Netting on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Good afternoon. Happy Monday. This is the Happy Hour, 93.7 The Ticket, theticketfm.com. Nick Sainert and Jake Bachhoven with you today.
Right.
What's up, Bach?
Oh, not too much. Just enjoying, counting down to football, of course.
Yeah, I know. Well, so no Rico this entire week. He is on vacation, a much-deserved and much-needed vacation. This week, we might as well just tell him now, Bach.
Okay.
This week, we're just combining the Happy Hour and water cooler.
That's right.
Because Nathan decided to go to Phoenix the same week that Rico decided to take a vacation.
Staycation, is it?
Yeah, he's staying at home.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so he's just relaxing. I know Rico's listening. So, Rico, if you're hanging out, let's do it. 402-464-5685, the Honda Lincoln hotline, and the Starter Heyman text line. Both those open for you guys the entire show today. You can always tune in on the video stream as well, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, or hit us up on our personal Twitters. I almost said tweeters. Personal Twitters, Nick_Sainert and at Jake Bachhoven. So once again, no Rico, no Nathan this week. So it's going to be me and Bach from 2 to 4 every single day.
Is that less bickering or more bickering, do you think?
I don't know. It depends. I think I have, since the last time we did a show, I have probably started to trend towards the Nathan side of things rather than the Bach side of things.
I get painted as the bad guy.
You do. No,
I don't. Because Nate, as opposed to Nate's outlandish optimism, then yeah, I'm the bad guy. But
that's true. Well, and I'm right there with you, man. Where I think there's some of Nathan's takes are outlandish, and I'm not about them. But I am more towards the. I would say this. I am leaning more towards 9 wins than I am 6 wins.
Okay.
See, there we go. So we're going to have conversations. Once again, 402-464-5685, Honda Lincoln hotline, Starter Heyman text line. Happy Monday. We are going to be joined by Steve Mark of Inside Nebraska here at 2:30. He was at the press conference today. We heard from Eric Shenander, Travis Fisher, a couple players, all that good stuff. So we will fill you guys in on what our reaction was. We'll talk to Steve here in about 20 minutes or so, what his thoughts were. Scrimmage happened on Saturday, so we got to hear a little bit about how that went. But first, Vershawn and I kind of talked about it at the end of that show there, but I want to pick it up with Bach here. If you guys had not heard the news, it was released last night about 10:30 p.m. or so that Oklahoma wide receivers coach and associate head coach Cale Gundy, who had been there for over 20 years, was resigning. And he posted his resignation on Twitter last night. And he said this: I owe it to Sooner Nation. It's a very long statement, but I'll just read a snippet here. Last week during a film session, I instructed my players to take notes. I noticed a player was distracted and picked up his iPad and read aloud the words that were written on his screen. The words displayed had nothing to do with football. One particular word that I should never under any circumstance have uttered was displayed on that screen. In the moment, I did not even realize what I was reading, and as soon as I did, I was horrified. I want to be very clear, the words I read aloud from that screen were not my words. What I said was not malicious. It wasn't even intentional. Still, I am mature enough to know that the word I said was shameful and hurtful, no matter my intentions, blah, blah, blah. So, Cale Gundy, Oklahoma associate head coach, has resigned after 20-plus years. Now, does this mean a lot? I don't know. First of all, Bach, this is where I stand on it. And I told this to VJ, and I want to get your guys' thoughts as well. 402-464-5685. It was like, if this was a pattern, I understand the resignation. If this thing has happened, this instance, and people just haven't heard about it, right? If it's happened before, I understand a resignation at this moment. But I sit here and now I don't want to speculate what the word is. That's not what we're going to do here. But I sit here and I go, it seems a little harsh, or it seems bold to force a guy to resign if it was truly an accident and it truly happened the way it sounds like it happened in the statement.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough. I mean, I tend to agree. I don't think that this is such a severe thing that maybe, I mean, if you step outside and or if you really want to punish him, I mean, I could see a game suspension or whatever. You always see players over the summer getting in trouble, you give them a game suspension. It is tough. It's a tough line to go down because if it was racial, because it's hard to think of any other word. Like, what's another word?
You're right.
Right.
Yeah.
So you don't want to speculate, but I think that's what a lot of people are kind of landing on. And then just because of the way that he said it in the statement was like important to note around, like, this was not derogatory. There's nothing.
Yeah.
And that and so if you go down that, and you see a lot of Oklahoma players just kind of distraught about this, or former Oklahoma players on Twitter, because he's a mainstay. He's Mike Gundy's brother, for what it's worth. Played at Oklahoma.
Which is so wild. Which is so wild to think about with Mike Gundy coaching at Oklahoma State and him coaching at Oklahoma for so long.
Yeah. You'd think at some point he would jump over to Oklahoma State, but maybe that's down the line. Maybe second chance.
Maybe it's going to happen now. Maybe it's going to happen now.
I think that it's a harsh punishment. At the same time, if there was a few people offended, then you want to get the team together. I'm not sure.
Yeah, like I was just like, once again, and now we don't have details, don't know anything going on, and maybe Brent Venables is just trying to run a super tight ship. Like that's a whole nother thing with this. I don't know how much of a burden this puts on the team, the program at Oklahoma, but it is something to watch now because they are without their associate head coach. And to put that in Nebraska's terms, okay, let's just transfer that over to Nebraska's terms. That's Nebraska losing Mickey Joseph, right? Exactly same role, right? And you could argue that Mickey Joseph might play a bigger role as a coach here at Nebraska right now, and as important role as a coach at Nebraska than any other coach on this staff, and possibly including the head coach. When you talk about recruiting, when you talk about the relationship with the guys, and we talk about rooms that we feel good about, the wide receiver room is extremely deep, and we feel relatively decent about the potential in that room. So when you sit here and you go, all right, what's this compared to Nebraska? This is like Mickey Joseph having to resign. That's how it is. You're associate head coach that's been here for 20 plus years and a wide receivers coach that you feel really good about is out of the blue. If it was Nebraska, it'd be 2 weeks before the season begins or 3 weeks before the season begins. Like, it definitely stirs the pot a little bit and shakes a couple things up.
Well, and it's crazy too, because he's a holdover, not just from the previous staff, but from Bob Stoops' staff. I mean, he's the longest tenured assistant in the Big 12. So I mean, this is kind of your mainstay. This is your stability through instability, right? Through the coaching changes over the years. You've known that Cal Gundy's going to be there in whatever role it may be. I mean, he's done, like you said, running backs and wide receivers and whatnot, kind of jump back and forth there. But as far as being fully stocked and prepared on the season, this is another one of those distractions, and it's probably one that it's just hard to read, right? Did Cal Gundy make this decision on his own? Was it kind of a forced resignation?
Well, and that's what somebody says on the text line. Once again, 402-464-5685. Want to get your calls, get to all your texts today. What makes you think he was forced to resign? It sounds like he resigned because he was so upset and disappointed with himself. And that's what makes this whole thing so confusing, like you said, Bach, is because you have it where, once again, that's where I'm feeling like if it was a situation where he's forced to resign, maybe, like I said, it's Brent Venables just trying to run a very tight and organized ship. And maybe that's not a bad thing necessarily, but also I would understand it more, I think, if there was a pattern of this type of behavior. If it happened once, and that's why I'm saying this is so confusing, is because he says this once again, the words displayed had nothing to do with football. One particular word that I should never under any circumstance have uttered was displayed on the screen. In the moment, I did not even realize what I was reading, and as soon as I did, I was horrified. Now, reading through the statement, there is a lot of regret and authentic apology.
Yeah,
it really feels like it. So if it's that situation where if this was the first time that it's ever happened and there's been no pattern previously, and he truly did not mean to do anything malicious, as he says in his statement, and he resigns, it just feels like a bold statement. Like, it feels like a bold move coming from the program, because I'm sure there were conversations behind the scene between Cale and Brett Venables and the upper arms of the athletic department of how should we handle this.
Yeah. And maybe that was part of it too. Maybe he just said, you know what, let me step aside.
Maybe.
I don't want to be a distraction. I
And
don't
that's
want an
respect, I
internal
suppose.
investigation or anything. That certainly could play into it. It's just hard to figure out. The other thing that you kind of think about here, and it's not known, or they didn't report. I'm sure there's whispers around Norman who the player was, but I mean, how bad does he feel? I mean, I don't know what he was looking at,
Exactly.
like song lyrics, it sounds like. Or something. I mean, he wasn't doing what they were instructed to do, which was take notes on the game. So not only was this player's was not doing his job in the moment, now he's got long-lasting effects just because whatever he was looking at on his iPad. And I don't know how he feels. I don't know how his teammates probably feel about that if there's a lot of people on the side of Cale Gundy. But it's just kind of a fascinating situation where you don't have all the details. Seems kind of odd. But it is another little bit of instability for Oklahoma again in a year where, heading up to this game in Lincoln. I know it's a few weeks down the line in the regular season, but they just seem gettable. They seem unstable. All that to say, all that's true. They're still preseason top 10. I mean, it's the Oklahoma brand. They got to be one of the favorites in the Big 12.
Which, speaking of that, I don't know if you saw this. Texas got a first place vote.
A first place.
Did you see that?
I did not see that.
They got
from the coaches poll.
Yeah, they got a first place vote, and I am so confused on. Well, first of all, I'll be honest. My first thought was it must not be a concern to replace Casey Thompson. That was my first thought. Now I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But secondly, every year it feels like people buy in on Texas, and every year they don't live up to the expectations. But you look at this Texas team now this year, and we're going to get to Nebraska in a second. But you look at this Texas team this year, and you got Bajan Robinson and Xavier Worthy on the edge, or excuse me, on the perimeter for wide receiver. And there's just a little talent there down in Austin, and it feels like Steve Sarkisian might be the guy. Like I don't know. Do we truly feel like Steve Sarkisian can run a Power 5 program?
Not me. I mean, I think he can go 9-4 if that's what you want. I mean, I think that you can. I mean, that's kind of what had him ended up putting up at Washington and then at USC.
Yeah.
And then he went to the Nick Saban school of rehab or whatever as an offensive coordinator. All of a sudden, he's good enough to be hired at Texas. I never understood it. But and they're gonna do. It's crazy. I mean, what they've done without being able to get draft picks at Texas. Everybody says it all offseason long and for multiple off seasons now, but it's because it's so true. It's just insane. We could argue, until we're blue in the face, and we did back in the day, about how hard it was for Bo Pelini to win 9 games here. And maybe it is a lot more difficult to win 9 games than we give him credit for, and all those guys, just because they did it over the years. But I'm telling you, at Texas, you should probably win 9 games. I told the story before when I went to an Iowa State-Texas game, and just listening to the Iowa State fans around me, the mentality there was not like Nebraska, where it's like, yeah, maybe we'll get them this year. We got this guy and this guy and that guy. It's just kind of like, well, they always have the talent edge. We're just going to have to sneak up on them. Because that's what Texas is compared to all those other Big 12, other than Oklahoma, most of those other Big 12 schools.
Well, it's so interesting. So I'm looking at their 2022 class right now. And they took 28 guys, all right, 28 guys. But just to kind of, and we all know how important it is to recruit Texas as an outside school, but also if you're an in-state school, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's extremely important. They took 20 of their 28 guys from the state of Texas.
Well,
so if it's rich, I mean, talent's rich, I suppose.
Yeah.
Their top four recruits from the 2022 class are from Texas. A 5-star. 2 5-stars and 2 4-stars, all within the top 100 of the recruiting class. So it's kind of insane now. And they ranked 5th in the country in recruiting. Texas did last year. Right now for the 2023 class, they're ranked 5th overall as well in the entire country. Big reason because of Arch Manning, the number 1 overall recruit from New Orleans, is heading to Texas. And then they have 2 5-stars right now in the fold for the 2023 class. They already have 21 commits for the 2023 class, and 14 of them are from Texas. So I guess, honestly, if you're an in-state school from the state of Texas, you look there and you go, as long as we can get some of the top talent from our state, we're going to be okay, because we know how rich it is, and we're just going to build off of in-state guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's why the job should be considered pretty easy, because you got such a talent-rich state where high school football matters more than it does anywhere else in the country.
Exactly.
You should be the top brand in the state. Going over to the SEC, I can't wait to see, because I think Texas A&M at least kind of had that, right? Like, we're Texas's SEC team. Now that Texas is jumping there, does that hurt Texas A&M? I wouldn't assume so right now, because they're maybe their NIL package, according to Nick Saban, maybe not, according to Jimbo Fisher, but they're on fire as far as recruiting goes. I'll tell you this too, and I very rarely can get myself to root for Texas. Yeah. I don't want to hear Texas.
No, you like Texas.
No, I don't like Texas.
I created a meme. You like Texas.
Because I respect Colt McCoy, because he's Arizona's backup. September 10th, Alabama, Texas. You want to hear Texas is back? They beat Alabama. You won't hear the end of it.
So I haven't looked fully into the schedule for like September games or anything like that. But I mean, like, Texas, is it bad if I say that Texas is, I don't want to say fun to watch, but there is a part of me that kind of is like, yeah, I'll watch a Texas game in September.
Oh yeah.
But it's because they probably scheduled the hard non-conference game like in Alabama, though. Like, there's probably part of that as well, I suppose.
Well, and that's just the part of, that's the Texas, the brand, as much as you should hate them. And I really do, because they ruined the Big 12. They ruined the Big 8. They ruined the Nebraska-Oklahoma rivalry. Now they're just leaving the Big 12 in shambles. I mean, they're awful for college. They're awful for college football. For traditional college football, like I like to see.
Yeah, exactly.
But they are moving it, steering it into the future. They're just that big of a brand. But if you talk about watching them, yes, they're fascinating. It's like Notre Dame, or there's only a few brands that you watch and you're glued to it just because you want them to either lose or skate by while you're cheering against them, so that next week their game's more important and you can cheer against them again.
Exactly. You want to talk about a big game? This game is September 3rd. Notre Dame at Ohio State.
Oh yeah,
that's a huge game. So I don't know if you know this, Bach. I'm a huge Marcus Freeman guy.
Oh, good.
I love Marcus Freeman. And so I liked Marcus Freeman when he was at Cincinnati as the defensive coordinator, and obviously played at Ohio State, went to Ohio State. Marcus Freeman was defense coordinator at Cincinnati, then got a job as the defense coordinator at Notre Dame, then ended up getting hired as the head coach, obviously, when Brian Kelly left and started dancing at LSU. So I love Marcus Freeman. I love the message that he preaches. If you go onto Notre Dame's Twitter and see kind of the message that he translates to his guys and the way he runs that program, it's very fascinating. Big Marcus Freeman guy. And I'm really interested to see how he gets those guys ready for a game against Ohio State at the shoe. Like, I think there's going to be a lot of eyes.
That offense?
Yeah. It's that offense, but it's against the Notre Dame defense.
Oh yeah.
And you also have to remember they got that transfer from Northwestern.
Brandon Joseph.
Yes, thank you, Brandon. I kept wanting to say Kyle Hamilton, but I knew that was not the guy.
They got a lot of good safeties over the years.
They have a lot of safeties over the years. So I am very fascinated. I'm looking forward to that game between Ohio State and Notre Dame.
And I will say this. Ohio State's another team. It depends on what you do, if you root for conference or not or whatever. Ohio State's another team that's easy to root against, but it took a lot of
are they?
I think if traditionally, I think Nebraska and Ohio State fans have started to bond a little bit, with the kind of fighting COVID or whatever and trying to play football and all that. So maybe there's more of a similarity and more of a like now. I'll just say I like Marcus Freeman as much as the next guy.
Yeah.
Ohio State losing in non-con kind of dimmed it a little bit for the Big Ten altogether last year. Like Michigan and Michigan State rose up, but it still wasn't like, it's the same thing with the Alabama-Texas game. You can't, if you lose your top guy before conference play, your conference is just perceived weaker.
That is interesting to think about. We do get this question on the text line. Does anyone know what the role Tyrique Johnson will be on the team? Former 5-star Ohio State transfer, as we know. Haven't heard his name much from camp. I guess that's a good segue real quick here before we get to Steve Mark of Inside Nebraska here in 5 minutes or so. Like, I have not heard much from Tyrique Johnson.
No. And
unfortunately, it feels like that. I mean, it might be a guy that I've
seen him in some of the videos.
Yeah, I mean, he's there. Like, he's still here.
Yeah.
But in terms of what role he could play, it sounds like guys are jumping him on the depth chart, and I would not expect Tyrique Johnson to play a huge role in this season. Maybe next year, right? Little bit more information on the defensive backs. Kane Williams, the Alabama transfer, was back at practice today, so that's good news. But in terms
of Devin Drew there yet?
No.
Okay.
And so I'm curious because I asked Rico last week, I said, how concerned are we about this whole Devin Drew situation, right? And I think every single time we talk to either Scott Frost or a defensive coach, that question has come up, and they've said the same answer every single time. Hopefully here soon. He's hopefully going to be here soon. And I think it's just one of those things where you're waiting on him to graduate, and you're waiting on him to make sure all the things are in order. Eric Shenander said today something along the lines of, we hope he's here soon, and we don't know how quick we're going to be able to teach him the terminology. We don't know how quick he's going to be able to make an impact on the game. And I think another thing is he doesn't know. I think Eric Shenander said something about along the lines of all the stuff that's being processed right now is way over my head, way above my head. I don't know. I think it's true. I mean, I think he's telling the truth where he doesn't understand all the academic side of things. He just knows these are the guys I got in my room, and this is who we're going to go play games with. So as of right now, Devin Drew's not here, but they're still expecting him to be here. And
any day
now.
Yeah,
any day, hopefully. So,
but they did mention too that Stefan Nguyen's a little bit behind Nash Hutmacher because of unfamiliarity with kind of what they've been doing, and haven't been here for a few years. You got to assume Devin Drew is going to be the same way. I know both of them, game shape, all that stuff. They know how to get ready for a football season, but there is still something to getting in line with your teammates and knowing the playbook and knowing, being familiar with what kind of moves the different guys are going to throw at you. I don't know when he'll be here. Maybe he gets here tomorrow. Maybe he gets here by the end of the week. Yeah. I'm starting to expect less of him, at least early on in the season.
I think so too. And we'll ask Steve here in a moment, but Unnamed Texter just said, if the coaches knew Drew wouldn't be here by August 7th when they recruited him, would they have taken him? Because he's only here for 1 year, right? And yeah, that's true. He's only here for 1 year. I don't know the answer to that question. Like, the staff has in the past has taken chances on guys. And now I'm not trying to say Devin Drew's an academic liability. Like, I'm not trying to put that out there because I truly don't know if that's what they're waiting on. Like, I don't know if he failed a class and he has to take, like, I truly don't know. But I will say, like, this staff has had a proven record of taking chances on guys that are academic liabilities, or maybe a better way to put it is just off the field liabilities, right? Maurice Washington's one of them. Xavier Betts was an academic liability. There were other guys that they've taken chances on. So would they still take him? Probably. Like, because they feel like the upside on the football field would be a high enough return to risk it this much.
I mean, he started 11 games last year for Texas Tech.
That's right.
So one way or the other, you want him here for depth purposes. I don't care if he doesn't have a day of practice. They just don't have a whole lot of depth build up. Mm-hmm. But to me, it's just limiting because I looked at him as a starter. When they got him,
I did too. I looked at him and Nash as 1A, 1B.
Right.
Like, as those are guys, because obviously with the 4-3 front, like, I looked at it as those were the top two interior defensive line guys. Maybe Ty Robinson's in there as well.
I put Ty Robinson at the top.
I put Ty Robinson above Nash probably.
Right.
But as from an experience standpoint, I'm right there with you, Bach. I would have put Devin Drew right there. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. We do get to watch practice on Wednesday, so maybe he'll just show up on Wednesday and we'll be able to. Yeah. That'll be a big news point, big story point, or talking point. But for now, Devin Drew's still not on campus. And so we'll talk about that as we go along. All right, when we come back, we'll be joined by Steve Marik of Inside Nebraska. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Happy Hour on a Monday on 93.7 The Ticket.
Follow Nick and Enrique on Twitter at Nick_Sainert and at Radio Rico AC. More of Happy Hour is next on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
James Enterprise Incorporated, that company that hauls your gravel, rocks, and material for your farm or construction site, says thank you to the people of the healthcare community for putting yourself in the way of danger to save the public. That is what it means to be a hero and to build a beautiful legacy. This message brought to you by James Enterprise Incorporated. For all your hauling of rock, gravel, and materials, call them at 402-432-6740. That's 402-432-6740.
2-1 count, And that's a deep drive into the gap. Smith rounding first base. It's a stand-up double.
Hey, Nick, speaking of doubles, did you know Wings and Rings has 2 ways to enjoy their next-level food?
Rico, we're in the middle of a game.
The game can wait, Nick. One way is to stop by one of their Lincoln locations. They have 2 great locations at O Street, Meridian Park, and 40th and Old Cheney in Williamsburg Village.
You said 2 ways. What's the other way?
You can order online at wingsandrings.com.
Landmark Implement, your local John Deere dealership, is searching for mechanics of all skill levels to grow with us. Landmark offers a competitive wage, full benefits package, along with paid time off within just 60 days of employment, as well as a 401k and a boot and clothing allowance. Interested in becoming a part of the Landmark difference? Apply now at landmarkimp.com/careers or contact Deanna 402-310-7561 or email careers@landmarkimp.com. That's landmarkimp.com. Landmark Implement is the equal opportunity employer.
The best way to learn about Southeast Community College is to visit. SCC's Career Days will provide you with hands-on experience as you learn alongside SCC faculty and students and our industry partners. This provides you with a first-hand look at career opportunities in construction, agriculture, automotive, manufacturing and engineering, transportation, and healthcare. Learn more about SCC Career Days at southeast.edu/visit SCC. SCC. Your path to possible.
State Farm, this is Bill.
It finally got me, Bill.
What's that, Rick?
The Clark Street crater, the mother of all potholes.
Oh.
Year after rim-wrecking year, it's tormented the people of this town. It got me good.
But you know, State Farm's got you too.
You hear that? You ain't nothing.
You trash talking a pothole?
Yes, I am.
Go with the one that's here to help life go right. State Farm.
Call your local State Farm agent, Vinny Krekak, at 402-474-1173.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now they've raised wages again and they're hiring for production operators at $22.58 per hour. And other select jobs is starting at $24.28 per hour, with wages growing up to $30.30 per hour. Continental also has salaried jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates. To learn more or to apply, go to continental-jobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
Hey, batter, 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 wings, splatter, splatter, splatter. Catch all this season's baseball action at one of your neighborhood Lincoln locations. Get League of Their Own wings, burgers, nachos, and ringers while catching all the action. Stop into Wings and Rings located on O Street in Meridian Park and 40th and Old Cheney in Williamsburg Village. Or place your order online at wingsandrings.com. That's wingsandrings.com, Buffalo Wings and Rings.
Not headed to Dublin to watch the Nebraska football season opener? Don't worry, we've got you covered. You can tailgate and watch the game right here. Join 93.7 The Ticket, Ambition Electric, and Steve's Garage Doors here in our parking lot for a tailgate and watch party. Joe from Ambition Electric will be serving breakfast and lunch while our hosts get you ready for the game with the Ticket Tailgate pregame show. And best of all, it's all free. The Nebraska Northwestern Tailgate and Watch Party. August 27th, beginning at 9 a.m. right here in our parking lot at 330 North 48th Street. Brought to you by Ambition Electric and Steve's Garage Doors.
You're listening to the Happy Hour with Nick Sainert and Enrique Alvarez Clary on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, we're back here on the Happy Hour, 93.7 The Ticket, theticketfm.com. Nick Sainert, Jake Bachhoven with you. No Rico today. He's hanging out at his house right now. I know he's probably streaming on Twitch. So after you watch all of our shows today, if Rico, it's like Nicky Flash something is his username, Bach. I don't know what it is. But Rico's.
You watch him play video games?
I guess so. If you want to watch Rico play video games or stream video games, feel free to head over to Twitch eventually.
It's a thing.
I don't know. Yeah, it is a thing. It is a thing. People make a lot of money on it.
Oh yeah. Not Rico yet, but
yeah. Now I don't think Steve is a video game streamer. Is that right, Steve? Or do you stream your video games?
I do not stream the video games, but I'm kind of curious. What is Rico streaming?
Probably. So I've tried to get him into MLB The Show Diamond Dynasty. I don't know if you ever played that. But I'm trying to get him into MLB The Show, but I'm sure he's big on streaming. He streams a lot of those like weird games that I've never heard of.
Like one of those things like where you're like maybe like a space like somewhere like you're in an alternate dimension.
Exactly.
And you're like,
Yeah,
battling
like
Dungeons and Dragons
exactly.
and things like that with fire and ice.
Yeah, and if you know Rico at all, like that fits his personality to a T. So I
Well,
think
hey, I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan, so maybe him and I should get together sometime.
I am as well. Okay, Game of Thrones, not bad. Something I just learned about Steve. All right, we're joined by Steve Mark of Inside Nebraska here on the Happy Hour. He was at the press conferences, obviously, last week, visited practice, and was at Eric Shenander's presser today. Steve, I guess, first off, how much concern is this whole like situation with Devin Drew? Because he hasn't shown up to campus yet, and we don't really know what the situation is at, or at least I don't know what the situation is going on at Texas Tech. I mean, how much concern is there that Devin Drew might not be a huge impact or as big of an impact for the first couple of games as we had hoped back when we got his commitment?
Yeah, so I think back when we got his commitment, I don't know if a ton of people knew that he had to at least graduate Texas Tech, and then he had to look up when Texas Tech was graduating in the summer. And I'm not sure on that timeline quite yet, and I don't think really a lot of people inside of Nebraska's program are really like 100% sure.
Interesting.
But yeah, he is graduated, but he is not on campus yet. And yeah, I mean, it's a change from what people maybe originally thought about how much he could help out the defensive line early in the season, and especially against Northwestern. But right now, my gut feeling is I don't know how much we're going to get from him against Northwestern. So yeah, on the Devin Drew front, I think he's a talented guy who's going to help the defensive line, especially on the interior. But is it going to be Northwestern or maybe even North Dakota? I don't know.
Steve, how much of a hit does that take to the interior defensive line? I mean, because if you think about the roller coaster, I love to categorize it as a roller coaster this offseason, because Nebraska loses quite a few guys to either the transfer portal or, it's Damian Daniels going into the pros. And then you get a guy like Devin Drew, you get Stefan Nguyen, but now here we go. Devin Drew's not even on campus yet, and we're just a couple weeks away from the season beginning in Dublin. So, I mean, how much of a hit is this to the defensive line, and most specifically the interior defensive line group?
Yeah, I think it's a hit just because people were expecting him to maybe be the guy right next to Ty Robinson, maybe at that 3-tech or a 1-tech or whatever they want to play him at, Devin Drew. But as of right now, I think you're just going to have to play with what you got, and you still have some nice pieces, although they're just not totally experienced pieces. Guys like Nash Hutmacher, he's gonna get his opportunity, but he just doesn't have the game reps under his belt yet. Stefan Nguyen Jr., the transfer from Alabama, he looks the part. We saw him today, 6'4", over 300 pounds. He looks like a prototypical zero technique that lines head up on the center, and maybe even can play a shade and just inside of the tackles and be that run stop gap plugger that Damian Daniels was last year. But again, just like Nash Hutmacher, he just doesn't have the reps under his belt. Even we played for a while at Alabama, he just doesn't have a ton of experience. So there's outside of Ty Robinson, there's just not a lot of experience to kind of count on. So you're kind of up in the air wondering how these guys are going to do against Big Ten rushing offenses. And I think a guy that you're going to have to kind of count on and lean on until Devin Drew gets here, and maybe he'll outplay Devin Drew, is Colton Feis, the walk-on from UTAN. He's 6'2", 280 pounds, 275. While he's not the biggest guy in the world, everybody raves about his technique and how fundamentally strong and quick he is. So I don't know. It's just kind of a disappointment when you're talking about Devin Drew. He's not going to be here, and this is just my opinion that he's not going to make a huge impact against Northwestern or maybe North Dakota. But when you look at guys like Feist, Ty Robinson, Nash Hutmacher, Stefan Nguyen Jr., that's kind of your core right now for the interior D line. I think there's some potential there, but again, it's up in the air, and who knows right now.
We're joined by Steve Mark of Inside Nebraska here, and I guess sticking with the defense real quickly, Eric Shenander had a quote that really perked my ears, or made me really get excited when he said something along the lines of, the guys can't get bored doing normal things exceptionally well, something along the lines of that. Do we feel like the defensive side of the ball is really going to be the side of the ball that Nebraska leans on this year to not only keep them in games, but maybe even take them over the top and win games?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think you're spot on, Nick, because I just got done with kind of saying the question marks on the defensive side, but on the offensive side, I think there's more questions on the offensive side. I think I feel more comfortable in saying that the defense is going to be kind of the better side of the ball between the offense and defense. So I really like Eric Shenander. I think I could listen to him talk football forever. And I heard that quote too. And it was a really good one. And I just kind of trust him to take the pieces that he has and turn it into a group that's, like you said, gonna be the one that the team leans on because, look, the offense just has new quarterbacks, new running backs. The offensive line situation is not looking good, at least in my opinion. All the new faces at wide receiver. And then depending on how many 2 tight end sets, that backup tight end spot behind Travis Vokolek is kind of up in the air too. You got a walk on that's in Nate Borkacher, who's looking like he might get some reps there with Chancellor Brunton. But yeah, there's a lot of offensive question marks right now. And it kind of leads me to agree with you that the defense could be the unit that kind of the program, the team, leans on this year.
Okay, so you made me curious here. You said that you're not as high on the offensive line. I've talked to a couple people that they do believe that the Donovan Raiola was a quality hire and things like that. And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth and say that you said that because that's not true. But where's your concern lie with this offensive line? What's holding you back?
The center position, Trent Hickson. He's a former walk-on. He's I believe it's his first year that's going to be playing at the center position, and I know he has some starting experience at left guard under his belt, but he lost his job to Ethan Piper in the 2020 campaign, and now he's back. He's a 6-year senior, and I think it's good. I think it's good because he has experience, and you need an experienced guy taking over for Cam Jurgens at a really, really important position like center. But then just the edges and on the edges at the offensive tackles and Bryce Benhart and Teddy Prohaska. Teddy Prohaska had a really just in limited action what we saw of him. He had a really, really great kind of showing. But with the season-ending injury, am I convinced that he's going to come back and look 100% right away for Northwestern? No, I don't. I'm just being honest. I'm kind of wondering if they're going to have him on a pitch count almost. I don't know if he's going to just get to the level where he can just step onto the field and play a full college football game right away and look exactly like he did and return to form last year. We saw Bryce Benhart and the struggles that he had. Who knows what that's going to look like. Maybe it is a good thing with you get some new blood with the coaching with Donovan Raiola, and maybe that makes the difference with Bryce Benhart. But then Turner Corcoran, the health issue comes up. I know he missed spring just like Teddy Corcoran did, but I think it's safe to say that Turner Corcoran might be one of the leaders for that left guard spot, but we saw him tackle last year. I know he's a super athletic guy for a 6'6", 300-pounder, but I'm just kind of curious to see what he looks like at guard now, just because we haven't seen it. So, and then of course right guard, I think there's a competition still going over there at right guard, but Brock Bando is a 6-year guy who again has been in the program for a long time, but he just hasn't had a lot of experience. And last year he was set to start. During a previous press conference interview, he told us that he was set to start the Fordham game, but then just got gravely sick, gravely ill, and had to watch that game from home. He's looking to prove to a lot of people that he belongs on the offensive line, but he just doesn't have a lot of starting experience. I just look at the offensive line and I'm kind of worried. Are they going to be? What's that pass protection going to look like? Are they going to get pushed in the run game? So I'm not as optimistic as some are out there with the offensive line. But again, Raiola, I'm sure he knows his stuff. I mean, obviously he's a Raiola. I'd like to see it happen, see the improvement on the field before I kind of maybe say it or write it.
And it's kind of interesting because I agree with you. I think the defense is probably ahead of the offense at this point. Do you expect the offense, they made all these changes in the offseason. Mark Whipple's taken over the offense. Do you expect them to play call in that manner, or do you think that they might at times leave the defense out to dry a little bit with the hurry up and maybe get pass happy here and there?
Yeah, that's a good point. When I look at Mark Whipple, I just see a really, really smart football mind, offensive mind, and I'd like to believe that when he's looking at the makeup of this football program, if he knows, if he thinks it's a good idea to go hurry up and throw it around the yard and play fast and do all that things, he understands that it might put pressure on the defense, because if things don't go right and you get a 3 and out right away in like 30 seconds, your defense is out there right again. I'm choosing to believe that Mark Whipple is a smart guy who's gonna take that into account, and that's gonna affect how he calls his plays on offense. So I don't think that he of course, I think he wants to play how he wants to play, and he's going to do what he believes is in the best interest of the offense and what he thinks is going to score the most points. But yeah, I mean, if he doesn't think that he can maybe do it with all these new faces right away, I don't think he's going to leave his defense out to dry. I think he might see like a little bit of a slower pace on offense, more trying to run the football. Who knows? I mean, this isn't Pitt. This isn't Kenny Pickett. This isn't Jordan Addison lining up there at the X receiver. So he's got a lot of new faces and a lot of things to work through, and it's just going to be interesting to see how it all fits together and what it looks like.
Steve, last one before we let you go. We're talking to Steve Marik of Inside Nebraska, and last week I believe we heard Mickey Joseph say something along the lines of they're still looking for a leader in that wide receiver room. I mean, this is a wide receiver room that's pretty deep. We feel relatively good about it, and a big part of it might be because Mickey Joseph is the guy in charge of it. But how much concern is there that they're still looking for a leader in that wide receiver room?
Yeah, that's a great point, Nick. I heard Mickey Joseph say that, and then I kind of thought to myself, well, it's like, he was with Trey Palmer at LSU, and now Trey Palmer is over here. Trey Palmer came to Nebraska because he wants to be developed and coached by Mickey Joseph. So I was, in the back of my mind, I was thinking like, well, isn't Trey Palmer kind of stepping up and being the vocal leader and kind of showing everybody like what it means to play for and what it takes to play for a guy like Mickey Joseph? So I'm kind of wondering if Trey Palmer can be that guy. And of course we're only halfway through fall camp. There's a lot of football left to be played. So maybe there is some work left to be done. But maybe that's Mickey Joseph's way of kind of talking to his players through the media, almost, in my opinion. So yeah, I mean, I think Trey Palmer could be a guy that Mickey Joseph might want to lean on. But yeah, when I heard that, I was kind of curious myself. There's a lot of new faces in that wide receiver room who haven't really caught passes in the Nebraska uniform. Some guys that kind of missed spring and are coming out right now, trying to shake the rust off, like Isaiah Garcia Castaneda too. So you'd like the Omar Manning, a guy who's been here before, kind of step up and maybe be a voice in that room. But yeah, I mean, it's another story angle on the offense that I'm kind of really interested to see play out and see who kind of steps up.
Yeah, August 27th, it's coming up quicker than we ever could have imagined. We're already almost, like you said, halfway through fall camp. So, all right, Steve, appreciate the time as always. Have fun playing whatever video games you're playing, and we will talk to you next Monday.
All right, thank you, Nick.
That is Steve Marik of Inside Nebraska. Appreciate him taking some time as always. Our Monday guest here on the Happy Hour. Really interesting stuff. Not high on the offensive line, and which, I've been going back and forth, Bach, on the offensive line. I truly don't know how to feel about it. I like Donovan Raiola as a coach after seeing him and how he communicates with his players in open practice. I liked the way he went about his business. But, I mean, Steve makes a lot of good points about the inexperience and about guys coming back from injury and whether or not they're going to be healthy. And he makes a good point with Hickson losing his job in 2020 to a guy that's not even in a conversation for an offensive line spot right now, in Ethan Piper. And now he's here and going to be your starting center, replacing a guy that was drafted in the second round by the Philadelphia Eagles in this year's draft. So there's a lot of question marks on this offensive line.
Yeah, and I think that's going to continue to be the biggest question mark until it's proven otherwise. I just hope that you want to balance. You want them to be good at everything, but maybe if they're mediocre or one or the other, but be good at something, right? Run blocking or pass blocking. Give this offense something to rely on instead of just, here, let's see if we get it done this time. Because it could be like it was kind of last year, other than when Prohaska jumped in and they ran for like 500 yards against
Exactly.
Northwestern. It was kind of a guessing game almost every play how it's going to be blocked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. All right, let's go ahead and take our final time out here in the happy hour. If you have not heard, Rico and Nathan are both on vacation this week, so Bach and I are going to just be chilling here from 2 to 4 every day. So we'll just kind of, it's going to be like a spillover here in the final segment. We might go past the 3 o'clock hour just a little bit. We'll have a conversation, and then we'll just pick it up on the other side of at the top of the hour for the ticket water cooler. Appreciate once again Steve Marik of Inside Nebraska joining us here at 2:30. If you missed any of that interview, you can head over to theticketfm.com here in a little bit. That will be podcasted and posted for you guys. But let's go ahead and take a break. We'll continue this conversation. Nebraska football, maybe hear from Eric Shenander a little bit on the other side. You're listening to the happy hour on 93.7 The Ticket.
Download our app by searching 93.7 The Ticket in your app store to stay in touch and listen all day long wherever you are. More of the happy hour is next on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Problem gambling affects millions of Americans daily, of all ages and walks of life. If your loved one is struggling with addiction, contact Choices Treatment Center's 24-hour helpline at 402-476-2300. That's 402-476-2300.
Yo, it's the captain, Rashawn Jackson. Join me this Wednesday at Wingstop at 50th and O Street from 11 to 2 for Husker Sports Talk and, most importantly, wings. That's Wednesday at Wingstop at 50th and O Street, the official sponsor of the captain. Order wings ahead at wingstop.com. See you there.
The best way to learn about Southeast Community College is to visit. SCC's Career Days will provide you with hands-on experience as you learn alongside SCC faculty and students and our industry partners. This provides you with a first-hand look at career opportunities in construction, agriculture, automotive, manufacturing and engineering, transportation, and healthcare. Learn more about SCC Career Days at southeast.edu/visit SCC. SCC. Your path to possible.
Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket.
Okay, playing 93.7 The Ticket.
Alexa, turn down the lights.
Dimming the lights.
Alexa, order a pizza. The big one. All the toppings.
Are you sure that's a good idea?
Alexa.
That's a lot of pizza for just one man.
Alexa, just do it. Stop judging me, just do it.
As you wish.
Thanks, Alexa. You're my best friend.
Landmark Implement, your local John Deere dealership, is searching for mechanics of all skill levels to grow with us. Landmark offers a competitive wage, full benefits package, along with paid time off within just 60 days of employment, as well as a 401k and a boot and clothing allowance. Interested in becoming a part of the Landmark difference? Apply now at landmarkimp.com/careers or contact Deanna 402-310-7561 or email careers@landmarkimp.com. That's landmarkimp.com. Landmark Implement is the equal opportunity employer.
Eustace Body Shop, where our customers send their friends. That's the greatest compliment we can receive. If you've been in an accident, we'll get you back in your vehicle as quickly as possible. Our technicians care about you and your family and repair your vehicle to factory standards. We handle your claim from start to finish and provide a free loaner car. Stop by for a free estimate. Eustace Body Shop, just south of 88th and Highway 2.
The most recommended Eustace Body Shop. That's who we are.
Gaina Trucking is hiring CDL Class A and B drivers. Gaina Trucking guarantees a 40-hour work week year-round, and their strong team culture makes it not a job, but a career. Gaina Trucking offers health, vision, and dental insurance, 401k with company match, an employee assistance program, and other bonus programs. Build a better career today with great team culture at Gaina Trucking. Learn more and apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
State Farm, this is Bill.
It finally got me, Bill.
What's that, Rick?
The Clark Street crater, the mother of all potholes.
Oh.
Year after rim-wrecking year, it's tormented the people of this town. It got me good.
But you know, State Farm's got you too.
You hear that? You ain't nothing.
You trash talking a pothole?
Yes, I am.
Go with the one that's here to help life go right. State Farm.
Call your local State Farm agent, Vinny Krekak, at 402-474-1173. Local broadcasters make a difference in their communities every day. You can learn more about becoming a broadcaster by attending the Lincoln Area Broadcasters Career Fair with 93.7 The Ticket on Tuesday, August 9th at the Embassy Suites in Lincoln. Learn more about the numerous exciting jobs in broadcast available right now here in town. on the air and behind the scenes. Bring your resume and be ready to apply. Visit the 93.7 The Ticket booth at the Lincoln Area Broadcasters Job Fair Tuesday, August 9th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Embassy Suites in Lincoln. We'll see you there.
Get a lot of advice about self-care these days, but one of the most important self-care steps we can take is making sure we're financially secure later in life. For small steps you can take to save for retirement, visit WeSaySaveIt.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
You're listening to The Happy Hour with Nick Sainert and Enrique Alvarez Clary, sponsored by Empire Fence and Netting on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, back here on The Happy Hour one final time. Buck and I, we'll switch spots.
Yeah, we'll keep it fresh.
We'll just kind of keep you on your toes. We'll switch spots, but we'll both still be in the studio here after this next commercial break. 402-464-5685, the Honda of Lincoln hotline, the Starter Heyman text line. Buck, I just got a text, and we don't need to go in depth on this. Just got a text saying, do we know when Fred Hoiberg is going to hire a third assistant?
I haven't heard anything.
It made me realize we forgot that Nebraska needs to hire a third assistant coach.
Pretty much.
After Armand Gates left, because our minds are dead set on football right now, and rightfully so. A lot of excitement. But they got to hire a third assistant coach to fill Armand Gates' spot, and you're getting pretty late into the offseason here to where it's the question mark of who's attainable, who is a possibility to go get. And think about it, like Armand Gates leaves Nebraska for Oregon. Nebraska's going to have to steal somebody because a lot of guys are locked down into jobs. But then you have to ask the question of what kind of caliber of coach can you get to attract them to Nebraska to be the third assistant coach, basically, when it's I don't know if it's make or break year for Scott Frost, for Fred Hoiberg, but there's definitely smoke around the seat of Fred Hoiberg.
Yeah, they did say that they weren't going to hire somebody just to hire somebody. So they're going through. I know that they've had interviews. They're going through. So, like you said, it's just kind of late in the process. They're going to see if somebody's attainable at this point in time.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But I think they feel pretty good with their staff as is. If they need to kind of bump a guy up or do something like that, I think that's, and that's what you saw with Cal Gunny, the Oklahoma coach as well this time, which is later, obviously closer to the season than we are to basketball. But, sometimes those things can be a huge opportunity from a big jump for somebody on staff already, juggling a little bit of what you're doing and add a little bit more to the plate.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we got about a minute left here. What's coming up on the water cooler? What are we talking about?
Well, SMU is back, and I'm very excited.
The basketball, I saw that.
Yeah, and football. They've got an NIL package that I think is going to change the way the NIL pack. I think it should be the standard for NIL packages. So we'll talk about that. Also, I'm going to bring this up. Lee Corso turned 87 yesterday.
Yeah,
we've long talked about how there's no replacement for Lee Corso whatsoever at College Game Day. But I was looking on College Football Reddit, and Pat McAfee was brought up.
No way.
Yeah. What do you? So we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Maybe there is a replacement for Lee Corso after all. Of course, we'll still break down Husker football and all that.
Yeah. Disc Golf Jake says, "Hear me out. No assistant. Dana Altman, co-head coach." Well, Dana took Armand Gates, so that's probably not going to happen. That'll do it for us today on the Happy Hour. Bach and I will be here on the other side of the commercial break. Stick with us. The Ticket Water Cooler is coming up next on 93.7 The Ticket.
Gala Trucking